There's a phrase that real estate developers and financial executives in Dallas have started using, and the fact that it exists, the fact that it has enough substance behind it to stick, tells you everything you need to know about what is happening to Wall Street right now. The phrase is Y'all Street. It is a play on Wall Street, obviously, but it is not a joke. It is a declaration. Because what is being built in Dallas, Texas right now is not a satellite office park where junior employees process forms in a cheaper zip code. What is being built in Dallas is the most significant geographical expansion of American financial power since the New York Stock Exchange was established under a buttonwood tree on Wall Street in 1792. And the single most vivid symbol of that expansion, the clearest evidence that the center of gravity of American finance is moving, slowly but unmistakably south and west, is a $500 million, 800,000 square foot, 14-story campus currently rising out of the ground in the Victory Park neighborhood of Dallas, Texas, a few blocks from the American Airlines Center. That campus belongs to Goldman Sachs, the most prestigious investment bank in the history of American finance, the firm that has defined Wall Street's identity for a century and a half. And while that campus goes up in Dallas, while Goldman is spending $500 million building what will be its single largest office by square footage in the world, it is simultaneously filing warn notices to cut hundreds of jobs at its global headquarters at 200 West Street in Manhattan, issuing ultimatums to its own managers, telling them to move to Dallas or Salt Lake City or leave the company, and watching its New York headcount flatline while every other location grows. I'm Inspector James. This is what is actually happening to Goldman Sachs, to Wall Street, and to New York, and why the people in charge of New York's financial future should be paying very close attention. Let's start with the Dallas campus, because the numbers are striking enough that they need to be stated plainly before anything else. Goldman Sachs broke ground on its new Dallas campus at North End, a mixed-use development in Victory Park, and the scope of the project represents a level of commitment to Texas that goes far beyond routine office expansion. The building is 800,000 square feet across 2 wings anchored by a 14-story tower. It will house more than 5,000 employees. It includes a full-service fitness facility, backup childcare, multiple dining options, coffee bars, rooftop gardens, outdoor terraces, bike parking, a 5-acre adjacent park being developed alongside the building, and social lounges designed in what Goldman describes as Dallas-inspired aesthetics: earthy hues, open-plan floors, natural light, views of green space. The project ranks among the most significant office developments added in Dallas in decades, according to the Dallas Business Journal. The total investment is approximately $500 million. The Dallas City Council approved an $18 million economic incentive package to support the expansion back in 2022. Canada's Scotiabank was offered separate Texas Enterprise Fund incentives, specifically to locate near Goldman's new campus. The proximity of a Goldman Sachs headquarters being valuable enough that Texas used state money to attract a major bank just to be nearby. The campus is scheduled to open in 2028, and construction was confirmed on track as of April 2025. And Goldman's own executive in charge of the Dallas office, Asim Khalil, described the new building as designed to significantly enhance employee experience and represent what it means to be a Goldman Sachs campus in Dallas. He did not say what it means to be a Goldman Sachs satellite. He said campus. That word choice is deliberate and it matters. Now, here's the detail that gives the Dallas expansion its full context. Goldman Sachs already has approximately 4,500 to 5,000 employees in North Texas across its existing offices at the Trammell Crow Center in Dallas and locations in Irving and Richardson. This means that when the new campus opens in 2028, Goldman's Dallas workforce will be the firm's second largest concentration of employees in the world, second only to its global headquarters in Manhattan. As of the most recent available data, Goldman employs approximately 7,800 people at 200 West Street in Manhattan. Its Dallas operation, once the new campus reaches capacity, will approach or potentially exceed that number. You will have Goldman Sachs with its largest office by square footage in Dallas, its largest non-New York employee base in Dallas, its most significant recent capital investment in Dallas, and in New York, simultaneously, it is cutting jobs through its annual performance review cycles, filing warn notices, and running a deliberate strategic initiative, internally nicknamed Project Voyage, designed specifically to drain headcount from New York and London and redirect it to Dallas and Salt Lake City. Project Voyage is the internal name that Bloomberg reported in March 2020 for Goldman's workforce redistribution program, and the terms of it are blunt enough that they caused significant internal disruption when they became public. Goldman is telling select managers, vice presidents, managing directors, in some cases partners, that they need to relocate from New York or London to Dallas or Salt Lake City. The message, as Bloomberg described it, may come as part request, part ultimatum. We need you somewhere else, and it's not here. Employees who refuse to relocate may be asked to leave the firm. The logic Goldman has offered internally is straightforward. It needs to build out experienced leadership in Dallas and Salt Lake City, because those offices have been growing rapidly with junior employees, but lack the senior talent density that makes a financial hub function at full capacity. The way to fix that is to move the senior people from New York to Texas. And the financial logic for those employees, once they get past the shock of the ask, is also straightforward. New York City's cost of living is 130% higher than the national average, with a median rent of $7,849 per month. Dallas's cost of living is 2% above the national average, with a median rent of $197 per month. Salt Lake City is 10% above average, with a median rent of $944 per month. A Goldman Sachs managing director who relocates from Manhattan to Dallas is looking at a cost of living difference that, depending on their circumstances, can translate into tens of thousands of dollars per year in additional real purchasing power on the same salary, before accounting for the absence of a state income tax in Texas. The math is not subtle. And Goldman, which did not get to be the most prestigious investment bank in the world by ignoring math, has looked at those numbers and structured an entire strategic initiative around them. Goldman's Project Voyage is part of a broader cost reduction effort that dates back to at least 2020, when the firm's Investor Day presentation outlined a target of trimming $1, $3 billion in annual operating costs. One of the key levers identified was real estate, specifically shifting roles away from Goldman's most expensive locations toward cheaper hubs where office rents are dramatically lower. Manhattan office rents in Goldman's premium financial district location run significantly higher per square foot than equivalent space in Dallas or Salt Lake City. Goldman leases nearly 375,000 square feet in the Salt Lake City area across multiple properties, where office rents average about $25.50 per square foot, according to CoStar data, far below Manhattan rates. The firm is also growing in Bengaluru, India, Warsaw, and Birmingham in the UK, all lower-cost locations that can absorb roles that do not require physical proximity to clients or markets. At its 2020 Investor Day, Goldman said that 43% of its then-current employees already worked outside major financial centers. That number has been growing. The direction of travel, from high-cost financial hubs toward distributed lower-cost talent centers, has been the consistent strategic direction of the firm for half a decade. Dallas and Salt Lake City are the two primary domestic beneficiaries of that direction. Now let's put Goldman's moves in the context of what is happening across the entire financial services landscape in Texas, because Goldman is not a lone actor here. It is the most prestigious name in a migration of financial industry capital and headcount to Dallas and the broader Texas market that has been building for years and is now operating at a scale that the financial press has started calling by its own name. Y'all Street is not just a clever phrase. It is a category that real estate brokers, city officials, and financial industry executives in Dallas now use to describe a genuinely distinct financial ecosystem that is forming in North Texas alongside the traditional Wall Street hub in Manhattan. The institutions that have committed to that ecosystem are not marginal players. They are the dominant names of American finance, making investments that represent billions of dollars of committed capital and tens of thousands of committed employees. J.P. Morgan Chase employs 31,000 people in Texas, more than the 24,000 it employs in New York City. Its campus in Plano, a suburb north of Dallas, houses more than 12,500 employees in 5 million square feet of space, and has doubled its headcount since opening in 2017. Bank of America employs 19,000 people in Texas, with 14,480 of them in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Wells Fargo opened a brand new 22-acre campus in Irving, a city in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro, in summer 2025, with an initial wave of 4,000 employees and plans to create approximately 650 additional new jobs. Wells Fargo's own DFW market leader Brian Milner said the commercial banking team in Dallas-Fort Worth would double over the next 12 months. Charles Schwab relocated its entire corporate headquarters from San Francisco to Westlake, Texas, following its acquisition of TD Ameritrade, and that single move is widely credited by real estate executives in Dallas as the event that opened the floodgates. According to the Dallas Federal Reserve Bank, there are now 386,000 financial sector employees in Texas, making it one of the largest concentrations of financial services employment in the entire United States. And then there's the Texas Stock Exchange, the TXSE, which is perhaps the most audacious element of the entire Y'all Street story. The Texas Stock Exchange received federal regulatory approval from the SEC in November 2025 and is preparing to challenge the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ's century-long duopoly over American stock trading. The TXSE has raised $270 million in capital from a roster of investors that reads like a who's who of American finance: Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, BlackRock, and Citadel Securities, the market-making arm of Ken Griffin's Citadel empire. These are not speculative early-stage investors betting on a long shot. These are the institutions that already operate on the NYSE and NASDAQ, choosing to fund a competitor exchange in Texas because they believe, based on the trajectory of their own business decisions, that Texas is becoming important enough in American finance to warrant a dedicated domestic exchange. NASDAQ responded to the TXSE's creation by announcing it would open a regional headquarters in Dallas. The New York Stock Exchange, sensing the competitive threat, has been expanding its own Texas presence. The very institutions that define what it means to be a financial market are relocating pieces of their infrastructure to Dallas to be near the financial ecosystem that is forming there. Now, I want to be direct with you about what Goldman Sachs has actually said publicly about New York, because this channel deals in facts, and the full picture matters. Goldman has not announced it is leaving New York. CEO David Solomon has not given an interview saying New York is finished. The firm holds long-term leases on 200 West Street, its global headquarters, that run through at least 2028, and leases on 3 World Trade Center that extend through 2035, representing approximately $3. $8 billion in committed real estate expenditures in Lower Manhattan. Solomon completed a $120 million renovation of the 200 West Street headquarters in early 2024. When Goldman spokespeople respond to questions about Project Voyage and the Dallas expansion, they consistently say the goal is growth, building a bigger firm with more capacity and more locations, rather than a zero-sum transfer of roles from New York to Texas. And there is some truth in that framing. Goldman's global headcount has grown from approximately 43,000 in 2023 to over 52,000 by the end of 2025. The firm is getting larger, and new hires in Dallas do not necessarily mean lost jobs in New York on a one-for-one basis. But here is what the honest picture actually shows when you look at the WARN notices and the Project Voyage ultimatums and the Dallas campus construction all at the same time. Goldman filed WARN notices for 317 jobs cut at 200 West Street in August 2025. Then, in March 2026, it filed another notice cutting 343 employees at its Manhattan global headquarters. In March 2025, it sent managers a message that amounted to move to Dallas or Salt Lake City or leave. Its New York headcount, as its spokespeople have acknowledged, has plateaued. Growing the firm globally while holding New York roughly flat means every incremental new hire either goes to Dallas, Salt Lake City, Bengaluru, Warsaw, or Birmingham rather than to Manhattan. Goldman's Dallas headcount is growing rapidly while New York's is stagnant. The new Dallas campus, once open, will be Goldman's largest office in the world by square footage. Project Voyage is specifically designed to move experienced leadership, not just junior employees, out of New York and into Texas. The pattern here is not subtle. New York is not losing Goldman tomorrow, but New York is losing Goldman's growth, losing Goldman's future investment, losing the Goldman Sachs employees who would otherwise be buying apartments in Lower Manhattan and paying New York City income taxes and spending their paychecks in the local economy. The growth story of Goldman Sachs is being written in Dallas. Manhattan office rent in Goldman's premium financial district location runs among the highest commercial real estate rates in the United States. Dallas office rent in the Victory Park area, where Goldman's new campus is rising, runs at a fraction of that cost. Salt Lake City's office rents, at approximately $25, $50 per square foot, are dramatically below New York. For a firm that employs 52,000 people and manages billions in annual real estate expenses, directing its growth toward lower-cost locations rather than compounding its Manhattan footprint is not a cultural statement about New York. It is a straightforward financial decision that compounds over years into enormous savings. Goldman's own target of trimming $3 billion in annual operating costs, announced at its 2020 Investor Day, explicitly identified real estate and geographic distribution as key levers. Project Voyage is the execution of that target. The Dallas campus is the physical embodiment of that target. The WARN notices in Manhattan are the cost side of that equation, and the employees being told to move to Dallas or leave, many of whom are discovering that their quality of life in Texas, on the same Goldman salary, is genuinely and substantially better than in Manhattan, are the human dimension of what financial logic looks like when it gets translated into real people's lives. That is not a coalition of upstart investors hoping to disrupt the establishment. That is the establishment betting on Texas. The TXSE received SEC approval and is targeting early 2026 for its launch. Its stated mission is to provide an alternative to the NYSE and NASDAQ for companies that want to list their shares in a market that operates under what TXSE's backers describe as a business-friendly regulatory environment, aligned with Texas's broader governing philosophy. Whether the TKSSE ultimately succeeds in becoming a major competitor to the NYSE and NASDAQ, both of which have deep, century-old network effects that are extraordinarily difficult to dislodge, is an open question that will be answered over years and decades. But the fact that Goldman Sachs invested in building it, that JP Morgan invested in building it, that BlackRock and Citadel invested in building it, these are institutions whose business judgment is among the most respected in the world. They do not invest $270 million collectively in a new stock exchange in Dallas because they think Texas is a cute secondary market. They invest because they believe the financial ecosystem forming in Dallas is substantial enough and durable enough to support a major exchange. And Governor Greg Abbott, who has been the most consistent and most effective champion of Texas as a financial hub, is not being subtle about his ambitions. He has said directly that Texas wants to be, and believes it is becoming, the financial capital of America. Abbott has described the migration of financial firms to Texas not as one element of a diversified economic development strategy, but as a core strategic goal, and he has backed that rhetoric with the $18 million Dallas City Incentive Package that helped attract Goldman's campus, with the Texas Enterprise Fund money that brought Scotiabank to locate near Goldman, and with a consistent governing philosophy that treats financial services firms as partners to be recruited rather than regulated. When Scotiabank, a top 10 North American bank with over $1 trillion in assets, announced its Dallas expansion, Mayor Eric Johnson of Dallas said, "I'm thrilled to welcome Scotiabank to Dallas as our newest Y'all Street company." That is, a mayor branding his city's financial district by a nickname that his own business community created. That is not boosterism. That is an ecosystem naming itself. What does all of this mean for New York, and for Mamdani's New York specifically? It means the pressure on New York's financial sector is coming from two directions simultaneously, and both directions are pointing the same way. From the south, Dallas and the broader Texas Y'all Street ecosystem are absorbing the growth that would previously have gone to New York almost automatically. New Goldman hires going to Dallas, new JP Morgan employees going to Plano, new Bank of America, positions going to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metro, Wells Fargo doubling its commercial banking team in DFW rather than expanding in Lower Manhattan. Every one of those growth decisions is a growth decision that does not show up in New York's tax base or New York's commercial real estate market or New York's restaurant and retail economy. From the north, the political decisions made by New York's mayor, the tax day video outside Ken Griffin's penthouse, the pied-à-terre tax, the broader positioning of the city's government as adversarial to financial industry wealth, are providing exactly the kind of push factor that makes the pull of Dallas more compelling. You do not need the push and the pull operating simultaneously for financial firms to expand outside New York. Goldman was doing it for years before Mamdani was elected. But when both forces operate at once, when Dallas is building the most alluring financial campus in America and New York's mayor is filming videos outside billionaires' homes, the pace of the migration accelerates. The honest bottom line on Goldman Sachs in New York is this: Goldman is not leaving New York. Its headquarters is in Manhattan, and it will be in Manhattan for the foreseeable future. Its New York employees are among the firm's most senior, most experienced, and most client-facing people, and those relationships are deeply embedded in the physical and institutional fabric of Lower Manhattan in ways that cannot be relocated quickly or cheaply. But Goldman is choosing Texas for its growth. It is choosing Dallas for its largest office by size. It is spending $500 million on a campus that will house 5,000 employees in a city where 2 years ago people would have called you optimistic for suggesting that Dallas would become a peer financial hub to Manhattan. It is telling its most experienced managers to move to Dallas or leave. It is funding a stock exchange in Texas. And it is cutting jobs in New York through WARN notices while hiring in Texas through Project Voyage. New York is not losing Goldman today. But New York is losing the Goldman of tomorrow. One campus and one Project Voyage memo and one WARN notice at a time. And by the time the 800,000 square foot Dallas campus opens in 2028, the 5,000 Goldman employees who walk through its doors every morning are going to generate tax revenue, consumer spending, and institutional gravity for Dallas, Texas, not for New York City. The city that defined Wall Street for 150 years needs to reckon with that. Because Y'all Street is not waiting. I'm Inspector James. Stay informed, stay prepared, and subscribe if you haven't already. This story is going to keep developing for years, and the decisions being made in Dallas right now, in concrete and steel and Project Voyage memos, are the decisions that will determine where American finance lives in the next generation. I'll see you in the next one.